I'm Josh McDonald.
And I'm Miranda Materi, and we are Hand Therapy Academy.
Let's talk about students. We've covered some level two student stuff in the past, but I don't think we talked about level one students. Kind of what our expectation is. We'll get a lot of schools that want to send students to us for level one, sometimes even the observation before. What do we want out of them? What are we expecting? What should they do when they show up? Miranda,
What
what's your
paperwork do we have?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So what's your priority for a level one student as a business owner, as a therapist?
yeah. So just to clarify with the audience, so level ones, or if you haven't been, they're usually 1 week rotations, 40 hours, and it's strictly observation, or you might have them instructed exercises, but it's mostly supposed to be kind of hands off type of stuff. Um, So, you asked me what are my expectations. The first one is that I'll always tell them, you need to wear professional clothes, you need to show up on time. I have them sign some waivers about HIPAA. I mean, hopefully they've had all that stuff in school, but I have them sign something. Basically, they're not going to share any of the information outside of our clinic. And a lot of the times we have contracts with these people's schools, so that's kind of already in place. Unless they're just like an observation student, then that's a little different.
Yeah, yeah. And some of those things sound like they wouldn't need to be said out loud, like showing up on time and wearing professional clothes. But, there's more than once I've had to tell a student that's not an appropriate shirt to wear to a professional healthcare setting.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Or wearing flip flops. I've had students show up with flip flops. I send them back home. I have students that have wanted smoke breaks. You know,
interesting. Okay. All right. Yeah, things that, it's usually very early in their schooling. Your third level one is right before you go out on 12-week rotations, but those first two are very early, and some of these students are just getting used to what it means to be in these more professional settings. So it's a chance for them to learn some of that stuff.
yeah. And I usually try to like set all my expectations in an email beforehand so they don't just show up and say, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a standard thing in my notes app when I get that email from a level one student from whatever school, and they say, "Tell me what." I have this thing that I say, "This is where you'll park. This is the address. Here's your schedule. We're professional, business casual clothes." And I have some of those things, and I just copy paste that in so I don't forget to include something and have to rewrite that every time.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I think I rewrite it all the time.
I have to change it every once in a while and
Yeah.
make sure I put their name in it. But yeah.
Yeah, and then another thing that I've started doing, because we get a lot of students that maybe they're in undergrad and they just need observation. So this isn't directly in a level one, and I think you get a lot of these emails too. They're looking for observation hours, but for me, it's not really worth it to take someone for 4 to 5 hours, right? Like, so now I've been asking for like, hey, if you're going to come to our site and you want me to sign off on your paperwork, I need you to at least do 40 hours so you can get a good preview of what it's like. And because I feel like the 4 to 5 hours is nothing. What if your caseloads could be so different?
Yeah. You could have 3 or 4 cancellations on a rough day and they see nothing. And that's a lost afternoon. That shouldn't count for something.
Yeah. So I've been making a little bit more of a commitment. So then I know we're not just getting anyone, we're getting someone that really wants to observe.
I like that idea. I like
And a lot
that.
of
Yeah.
times people say, no, they're not interested.
And that screens them effectively then.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing. And it seems to be a good technique. You get the people that really want to be there and that are willing to put in the time.
Yeah. So we have when we get level ones, and I'll tell students, I don't really mind if you come as a level one. I'll tell schools you send them whenever. That doesn't have an impact on our day all that much because I want them to be present and inquisitive, good observers. But I'm not gonna like it's just I don't have to go over a whole bunch of extra stuff. You just be here and soak in as much as you can from the fly on the wall kind of perspective. You can ask questions, and if I'm not in the middle of writing notes or talking to a patient, I'll answer as many as I can. But you just work on your observation skills, and then I'll ask you some questions as we go. What did you see, and
Yeah.
work on your observations.
Yeah. And during that time, I usually tell them this is a good place to observe some good soft skills. Like I'm greeting the patient, I'm asking how they're doing. If you see people come in and I'm with another patient, go ahead and introduce yourself and ask if it's okay if you sit in. That way they're starting to work on some of those skills as well.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It would be too easy to treat those as like just write-offs. Like, I'm just here for a week, and I'll just kind of watch stuff and learn the technical. But you're right; those soft skills, how the therapists interact with each other, and how this therapist reacts with someone else's patient and has a conversation with them about their family or whatever, and making that clinic feel more welcoming than just like we're here to work on hands.
Yeah, or someone that's just like sitting there. Like I've had students where they just sit in the middle of the room, like kind of in the way, and you're like, hey, I need you to like engage with the people around you.
Yeah, yeah. Get out of other people's way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If a
yeah.
therapist needs a stool, don't be sitting on it.
Yes, yes,
Like,
that
and those
too.
I think are those soft skills that I think we take for granted and that you hope your student has. Sometimes they don't, right? So,
Yeah,
and those are much harder to teach than the biomechanical skills.
yeah. That situational awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I also think too, there's some awareness that I want the student to have about the workload they're asking from us is very minimal, but they have to usually have some forms they need us to fill out. They're going to write some goals that they need to accomplish. And they're usually, hey, I need to check these goals. Can you sign off on them? And when we're done, you got to sign off. But don't come back a week later on Monday or Tuesday and say, oh, I forgot to do that. Here, can you sign this and get it back to me right away? Like, that doesn't make an emergency on my part because I'm busy with my day. I'll get to it, but make sure you're on top of those things that you need from the therapist.
Yeah, and you filled out all the stuff that you like. I think like you put in the dates you were there. Like it's not my responsibility to go back and fill in all the dates and the hours. Like I'll verify those are the times you were here, but I don't want to have to do all that extra work for you when that's something you're totally capable of doing.
Yeah, yeah. It is an opportunity for the students to be in that immersive environment. And it's not a lot of time, but it's enough for them to, like a language immersion thing, where you can be deep in that, but then don't take away from the therapist who's already committing some time to giving you some instruction and, guidance.
Yeah. And I think it's an opportunity. Like, I think a lot of times with level one students, at least for me, I think that they often feel like hands is not that exciting, right? It's like until you're in school, really like learning the anatomy and stuff, I think is when it gets exciting. So I always tell them, like, hey, you might think this is not the setting for you, like I did. And, then I spent the last almost 20 years in it. So,
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I'll have students come in expecting it to not be exciting and see some really cool patients. And then you can kind of see this light coming on and they're getting kind of excited about it. And it is, you get 2 level 2s, but you get 3 level 1s in different settings. Expose yourself to a variety of things because you never know what you're going to like. You may really decide you love pediatrics or the mental health setting. Like that was really interesting. And that can guide your choices for level 2s, or at least gives you something to turn back to say like, I really want to go explore that once I'm a therapist.
yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely an opportunity. So you tell students have an open mind. We practice our soft skills, and
Yeah. Very cool.
that's to me what a level one is.
Yeah.
Getting
Yeah.
a little experience in the setting.
Yeah. And a lot of those things, like you said, cross over to the observations too. Like schools have those requirements for applicants to get those observation hours in. It's kind of a screening tool for the schools to make sure you know what OT is and can check off that list, but have exposed yourself to it too. So we have the same general expectations from those observers. Don't come in and just figure you're going to check the box and go apply to school. Like get value out of your time there because I'm investing at least some of my time in your presence here.
Right. And there, for us as business owners, extra bodies and all that in the clinic is honestly a liability, right? Like
Hmm.
if you think about it from a business standpoint, I never turn away students or anything like that, but we are like investing our time or putting some of our, the liability into it. And we're trusting our, the whole, and you're going to make the environment hopefully, better than worse because we're also a customer service business.
Yeah. And we run the risk of that level 1 student, an observer, that pre OT school observation hours, that person could cause a problem. And now I'm on the hook for it because it happened in my business. So we do open
Right.
ourselves up to some risk with that.
Yeah, we do. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, just some things for those students who are maybe headed out to their level 1s or trying to get their observation hours. If you guys have any questions about students, level 1, level 2, any of that stuff, don't hesitate. Reach out and contact us. Our email is info@Hand Therapy Academy, or you can contact us on our social media platforms under the handle Hand Therapy Academy.